This program was first broadcast on Otago Access Radio and made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.
Welcome to Arts Hub. Over the next hour, we'll bring you the latest on theatre, film, dance, music and the visual arts in Dunedin.
We have a finger on the city's creative pulse, bringing you previews and reviews of exhibitions, performances and installations, and talking with people in the know.
Arts Hub.
Good afternoon. This is Arts Hub. I'm Tania. I am the sole host here today, but I got a guest.
Hello.
Grant Findlay. Hello. How's it going?
Very good. How are you going?
I'm going pretty well, really. I mean, things have gone calmly. I didn't have to drive in a really crazy way to get here and risk life and limb, but just more or less on time and well fed and, all that stuff.
That's good.
Yes. So Grant is a person who has extensive experience in media but has never been on the radio before. Is that right?
Well, not until recently. I've had to do a few interviews, with Radio Dunedin across the road.
Yep.
But this is my first time on Access Radio.
And people are probably wondering, why? Why would Grant be on the radio particularly? Well, that's because you have not just completed, but recently completed a documentary on Radio Dunedin, which is odd having you on, to talk about the competition. But hey,
exactly, yeah.
No, it's okay. It's a whole other sphere, I suspect. Commercial radio versus this stuff. So what can you tell us about the beginning and, why you wanted to make a film about this particular thing? You, presumably, and Ryan,
Ryan Ingalls.
Thank you, Ingalls. I just went blank on his name. Okay. Yeah, so what's
Ryan Ingalls, he's been a good friend of mine since way back at university, sort of 15 years ago now, so yeah.
I used to work with him on Squirt, the TV show that he was once a host of. Yeah. So I don't even know that. You probably still known him longer than me, because that might have not been 15 years.
We're getting a little bit off topic, but I actually almost got him his first job at Squirt. I think I can claim it. It was a video that I made with Ryan in it, and we sent that in to TaylorMade, and they loved it so much that they flew him down to Dunedin the next day. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's significant. Yeah. That's significant. So you have a way with a camera. You're essentially, you're a cameraman first off,
right?
Yeah,
that's my day job. I work for TV3 News Hub, so I do the news on a daily basis with Dave Gooselink.
Yeah. That's a familiar name.
Yeah. So he's been around for a long time at TV3 there, and he's sort of the man for any local news here across Dunedin and Otago Southland. So
do you sometimes find yourself jumping in a car and racing off to, somewhere else in Otago to shoot something that's happening? Yeah, we're constantly on the road, It's pretty full on at times because you're racking up lots of Ks and... it does get pretty tiring, but it's a job that, every day is different and, it's so varied, and that's all you can ask for really in a job. True that. Yeah. So you've also, though, managed to do this kind of thing, which is outside of your job. So how did you fit in the time, I'm wondering?
Yeah, I guess I'm probably a bit of a workaholic. I don't like being idle, too often. Coming from Campbell Live up in Auckland, I moved down here 2.5 years ago, and that job up there was just so full on. You were pretty much on game, most of the day, really. Like you sort of lived and breathed that show. So coming down here, which was sort of more a slower pace of life, but we love it because we've got a small family and stuff, and we're bringing up family down here. But I sort of had that kind of work ethic of being constantly on the go. So I decided that after seeing a movie at I think it was like 2015 New Zealand Film Festival, I thought, hey, I've got this amazing station and, documentary subject matter here right on my doorstep. And, I thought, well, let's give it a go,
So you knew about the inside out part of Radio Dunedin because you were working there a bit? Or?
Well, yeah, because with MediaWorks, they're literally in our building.
Oh.
Yeah, so they were directly down the hall from us.
Right.
So I saw these announcers coming in and out and a lot of them are just volunteers, like, like Access Radio, sort of man off the street, come in, do a show, and that's how it works. And I found that fascinating coming from Auckland because there's no models like that up there. It's like it's very sort of foreign, and that station to me, Radio Dunedin, it feels like you're stepping back in time a little bit.
I must confess I don't listen to it, so I haven't really got a complete sense of what they do. Is it essentially talk, or do they play music?
During the day, you've got effectively paid announcers. So MediaWorks has sort of their day announcers. So you've got Owen Rooney, and at the moment it's Sonia van der Klundert.
Oh, yeah.
So they're both the day hosts. But then after 6 p.m, they flick into the Otago Radio Association, which are a group of passionate volunteer announcers who just come on and do their show, much like here.
This.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Yeah, so throughout all the weekend and after 6 p.m. at night, that's all just volunteer announcers. So you've got Irish niche shows, Scottish shows, Ian Roger, who does an amazing show with all his musical knowledge. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Wow. So okay, well, I mean, the call numbers, this feels very disloyal.
Yeah,
you really should be listening to 105.4 FM. But
exactly, yeah.
If for any reason, for example, we have shows in lots of different languages, and should we perhaps be playing a show in a language you just have no knowledge of whatsoever, you might have to flick your dial over somewhere else.
Yeah.
So what is the...
Or, instead of that, you can just come and watch the documentary, and then you'll get a good feel of the station.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd probably be better off if you were in the know, then you'd know what you're getting into. So yeah, see the film first. Yeah. So you're having your premiere in a week's time.
Yes, Wednesday the 20th at 8 p.m. is our big public premiere. So you can all get your tickets for that at Rialto.
Can you get them
box
now?
Office. Yeah, they're on sale now.
In fact, probably should get them now because it'll sell out, even though it's in the big cinema, presumably.
Yeah, it's a little bit daunting because we're in the 320-seater, so it's going to be a massive room, but hopefully we can get enough people along to make it an awesome night. I
think so, especially as, it's not all about just knowing you, it's about having some interest in the topic, and I imagine you would find there's a lot of folk.
Yeah. I think everyone in Dunedin will know someone who knows someone who's in this film.
Right.
Like you've got, because we interview a lot of local listeners who are very passionate about the station, as your listeners would be,
Maybe, yeah.
So I've got passionate listeners, passionate announcers, and then you've got the icons, sort of like Neil Collins and Owen Rooney, who sort of are the big names who have been around for a long time in broadcasting in Dunedin. And
they're like, can one get Radio Dunedin anywhere you live, or I'm not sure how these things work.
Well, you can, we're plugging another radio station here as well, but yeah, it is online, but also 1305 AM around Dunedin.
But, okay, so you can't actually get it like the way you would a national radio or something at any part of the country?
Well, only online. Yeah,
online.
It's online streamed, but it's a true sort of Dunedin.
So
I mean, you might get it as far as possibly Oamaru at a push.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
So people like Neil Collins, he's a Dunedin icon.
Yeah.
I was just trying to get my head around what icon meant, like how big an area. But anyway, people...
Well, I think nationally he'd be possibly known as well, because he used to host the Miss Universe pageants
really?
Back in the day. And yeah, he's been a big name in broadcasting for his whole career, really. Like he's spent his life broadcasting. So
right.
Yeah.
Wow. So see, that's a fascinating kind of a story that presumably will come up in the film or get explored in the film.
Yeah.
The background.
There's so many things that I've had to leave out though, because a 75-minute film with 100 years of history almost is, it's very hard to compact.
Yeah, daunting.
Yeah.
So Ryan is your producer, I guess? Yeah. So was he also a part of the cutting and the...
Yes, so what happened is I started the process and I filmed and interviewed all the people involved, and I had about 20 hours of recorded interviews and about 30 tapes of Dunedin scenics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
wow.
It got to the point where it just became a bit too overwhelming for me to tackle on my own.
Right.
And so then I brought on my good mate Ryan to help me sort of craft it into something that's resembles a documentary that people want to watch. Because I got in too deep and I was very close to the material, and I just couldn't see
couldn't cut anything out.
Yeah. So we worked together for many hours, just putting it all into a sort of a written sequence, like a script effectively.
Yeah.
And then we went to Christchurch, and I worked with editor Sarah Rowan, who we worked together on Campbell Live.
Oh, okay.
So we've got history and we know how each other works and stuff. So then we went up there and began the editing process.
Right. So how long did it take?
The whole process has taken possibly about 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah, which I think in the grand scale of documentaries isn't actually
that big.
It's like most docos probably take possibly 2 to 3 years, I think. Like looking back at the footage, because I went to just see the film at the movies this morning just to test that everything was looking okay. And on the big screen you see so many different things that even I hadn't noticed, because we're editing on a small sort of computer screen.
Right.
And you see the date was 2015. So 2 years ago we shot this footage. So
Now, you just now made a little square with your fingers to say you were editing on a screen, and you made it look like a phone-sized screen. Now, presumably you did have bigger screens.
Well, yeah, not too much bigger, because like when you see an Avid monitor, you've got your preview monitor and
the timeline and all that.
Timeline and stuff. So you've got
little
another monitor sitting beside you that you can sort of check things on. But you're sort of Sarah did an amazing job. She's a beautiful editor, and we've been working together on lots of things over the years. So I was very honoured that she signed on to this without even really knowing what it was about. So it was awesome.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty, I think in some ways, well, just having been an editor, I think I can say this, that in some ways you really like just getting something new and making sense of it. Like that's kind of the core fun, I guess you could say, of it. So in some ways it's like, just chuck me something. I don't have to know anything about it, and I'll find out as I go, and that's the fun part. Yeah.
So she works daily on news for News Hub, just as I do now. So I think it was a good chance for her to get back into something more long form, because even Campbell Live, we'd knock out sort of 12-minute pieces daily. That wouldn't be irregular at all. So news is so quick and fast that you do a day's work and then it gets cut down to a minute and a half,
right,
and it's gone the next day, sort of thing. This was a lot different, and I don't know whether she would have signed on if she knew how much work was going to be involved. But I mean, it was sort of the same with me. It's like I had no idea that it was going to take this long and be this involved, because I've never done anything like it. So
right. Well, so that was another question I was going to say, was had you made any more long form, or what prior to this would have been the longest?
Oh no, only. I mean, I've got a background in current affairs with Campbell Live and 60 Minutes before that, but that was sort of the most we'd ever do would be a 22-minute commercial hour sort of thing. So,
right. Yeah.
This is a whole different story, really.
Yeah, and perhaps a bit like, well, I think probably quite a lot like what people experience if they're, novelists versus short story writers, or, it's like how you get, the choices you make have to really be full of the information that you need to get across. You don't have a lot of time to meander, although maybe sometimes it's quite fun to just kind of try, like cutting against what you think sometimes might be kind of interesting too.
Yeah, the good thing about this is that we've been able to let things breathe a bit more because you have got the time.
Yeah.
So, there's just some nice sequences of Dunedin cut to music, and there's some beautiful Port Chalmers stuff out there, and I love that place. It's so great out there. There's so many awesome visuals.
Yeah.
Like the old RSA, there's a beautiful shot of that.
Oh, right.
Up on the hill there with the church.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, man, I'm really looking forward to seeing this. Well, also, I like being able to send messages to the people my Canadians and stuff like that, and say, look, this is my home.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you're obviously living here now and finding it great. I mean,
I haven't looked back really. I miss a few friends up in Auckland, but generally the way of life down here is so much better quality of life. You can actually afford to buy a house down here generally. It's a great place to be.
Like your kids, kids?
Kids too now, yeah. We've got
are they
Ellie and Ed,
school age yet, or?
Ellie's 4 years old now.
Oh,
so
right. So just about there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I imagine, I don't know for sure, but there must be some positives about being a school kid in Auckland, but here maybe it's I don't know. I just found, like, I used to do a bit of work with kids in schools, and I found even going from Dunedin to the smaller places like Balclutha or some Stirling or small town, country kids had a way with each other that blew my mind. Like, they loved each other really. They were more competent at expressing their feelings for each other, and because that was what we were doing, a program about feelings, so felt like we spent a bit of time talking about it, and it just seemed like they were much more caring kids. So anyway, maybe that's
almost what I found, because I grew up in Featherston, which is a very small town in the Wairarapa, and then I moved to Auckland, and one of my first experiences I remember quite vividly, I just hopped on the bus and I said hi to the bus driver, as you would normally do.
Yeah.
Nothing.
He didn't...
Total, just blanked. And I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
I think in big cities, you sort of... It's less personal connections, and that comes down to everyone. Like, you don't really just stop and have a chat on the street like you would down here,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess, everybody's got their day planned and maybe doesn't have time for that. Wonder why we do, though, down here, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think, you've just got time to think about things down here. And that's what I found with making this doco, is that I would have never been able to have the time up there to do something like this, because your day is filled with so many other things, like even just the commute to work.
Yeah.
There would sort of be, possibly up to half an hour to an hour, just to get to work. So, I think, and also just the buildings and everything down here are so much more inspiring, and you can just sort of take a step back and think about things, more broadly, and it's a beautiful place to be for anything creative, I think.
Yes, I agree. I think, I mean, never having lived in Auckland, I still agree that it's a good place.
Yeah.
And so the people that you, I guess in some cases, met for the first time, even though, had you been listening to Radio Dunedin a bit anyway, just because they were in your building, or?
Yes and no. Not greatly, really, but sort of as the process went on, I had it constantly on in the car, which probably annoyed Dave Gooselet, my colleague, quite a bit. But there's, I don't know, there's just some cool personalities on there, and a lot of them even in the process have left since we filmed this, because it's been such a long process.
Right. And so how do they position themselves? Like, what do they consider themselves, kind of more about news, or I don't know anything about them.
No, it's more like for their niche shows, it's more sort of just their focus, like country music or something like that. During the day, they sort of run like most other sort of national radio stations. They do your local news, your national news on the hour, and then you've got, just normal music and chat about local stuff, which is why it rates so well, because local people love hearing about local issues.
Right.
And that was, Jim Sullivan sort of said along those lines in the film. He's a radio historian, which people obviously know from Radio New Zealand. He's quite a big name. He retired last year. It's just local information. The same as Access Radio, really. People want to hear local stuff.
Well, yes, I guess that's true. And broader, well, I say broader, I mean local, but quite often what happens here is, people who have something going on in their lives that is maybe a bit unusual, or they're part of a smaller niche community, and they're sort of trying to present that. But yeah, so it sounds like I need to listen to Radio Dunedin just to get a sense of what it is, and like what age are they? I mean, I guess they have different times for different.
Well, mainly their sort of focus is 50 plus, really.
Oh, okay.
So mainly because of the music they play, it's sort of for an older audience,
right?
But yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay, so this artist whose CD you brought in today, is she an example of someone who might get played on Radio Dunedin?
Yes. We've got Melissa Partridge here, who's a good local artist, and she's got a song in the doco because when I was going through the process, I kind of wanted to reflect the music of Radio Dunedin.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of cost associated to some of these big tracks. Like I tried to get a Neil Diamond song in there at one point, but it was going to cost a couple of $1,000s just to use 30 seconds of his song. So yeah, there's a lot of songs which I've had to cut out and use some local artists, which is great because it promotes local stuff as well. So we've got Melissa Partridge and Dave Colclough in there.
Oh yeah, it's funny, I've never heard his name said. I've only read it, so I don't know if I would have.
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Oh no, that's probably is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, okay, so let's listen to a track then from Melissa. It's track 2, I'll Be On My Way.
Yeah.
Ooh, good thing I didn't say anything before that final ending. You guys are listening to Arts Hub on Otago Access Radio, 105.4 FM. Tania's my name, but I have with me Grant Findlay, who is my guest, who has just completed a film fairly recently, and it's going to be hitting the screen in about a week's time, next Wednesday night, Radio Dunedin. And we were just listening to a track by Melissa Partridge, and she's a local artist who, in that case, wrote her own music. No, we were just talking about this because, Grant, you were saying using music for the doco, it made sense, of course, being about a radio station, but it can be quite expensive to get tracks that are, otherwise commercially, well, it makes sense that you got to pay people for using their music, but it's a little bit cheaper to get the local stuff, I guess. So you've got a lot of local music in your film.
There's a couple of local songs, and also Ryan and myself, we composed a few just on GarageBand as well.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
Is that something you've ever done before?
Ryan's done a bit, and there's another song from the Jars, which is Ryan's university band.
I didn't even know he had a band.
Well, it was very, very underground, but it had Jeremy Redmore in it, who went. He went on to be pretty famous in New Zealand with the Midnight Youth, and
I see,
and he's done a solo album as well, Jeremy. So
Jeremy Redmore,
I
never heard of him, but I'm happy to check him out at some point. Do you want to? Shall we just play the trailer for the film, because we've got it teed up? Let's see how we can make it sound.
Yeah, so this is our film trailer, which you can see on YouTube.
By Your Face Films.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm supposedly playing it. Oh, whoops, hold on. I got the audio up, I got the thing on, it's playing, but we're not hearing it. Probably something to do with this. Hold on. Nope. Okay, we'll have to not do that just now.
So you can go onto our Facebook page, Radio Dunedin Documentary, or YouTube, and search us out, and you'll be able to see the trailer and some teaser trailers as well.
Excuse me.
Featuring some of the listeners of the station.
So there's a thing called a teaser trailer?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's quite a sort of industry term, I guess, for American films. They put out little teasers of, just little glimpses of the documentary before the actual trailer comes out, just sort of get people interested.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Where do they release those things? Just somewhere online?
I guess mainly just online, yeah.
Huh. teaser trailer. Yeah. So if a trailer is, like no more than sort of 3 minutes or whatever, how long is a teaser trailer generally?
I think it's normally sort of 30 seconds or so, or sometimes even less. Wow. Yeah, it's just sort of a little sort of glimpse to get people going, oh, what's this about?
What is that?
Yeah.
I won't know because it's over already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'm just also now able to glance across at the YouTube that you've brought up, and you actually have heaps of stuff on there, it would seem. Of course, there's another thing from Radio 1, but Tracy Chambers talks to director Grant. That would be you, presumably. Yeah. Who's Tracy Chambers?
Tracy is, she was filling in at Radio Dunedin, and we just did an interview much like this over there, and...
okay. So it was about the film as well.
Yeah. So we've just put some promotional stuff up on YouTube as well, just to so people can tune in if they didn't hear it on the radio. So So, how did you get into this whole thing to start with? You have been wanting to make pictures and make films for a very long time, I think, from what you said before. Yeah, I guess so. It's sort of... my career's kind of been strange in the fact that when I was growing up, I always wanted to do film or television. Yeah. And that was probably from my love of Michael Jackson and his music videos. Yeah. Because his music videos were just so cinematic and so he kind of inspired me really to get into film. And I always thought that I'd want to be a big film director and blah blah blah, like you have all these dreams. But then you sort of, as my career went along, I started working at Shortland Street as a camera assistant. Right. And I quickly realised that the world of drama and films and dramatic television and stuff is actually kind of, can I say, it's filled with sort of...
It's crazy people?
Yeah, like very, like intense people, which are great, but it's sort of, there's a lot of kind of...
Wankers.
I was going to say wankers, yeah.
I guess I'm allowed to say that.
A little bit, yeah. So I kind of realised pretty early on that maybe the drama side of things was not what I wanted to get into. And so I sort of stumbled into news, really. I never really was interested in the news. And so I applied for a job at 60 Minutes doing the sound there. Right. And that's sort of, you work with a very small team there. You've got the reporter, a producer, the cameraman, and a soundie back in those days. Right. So it's a 4-man team, very tight-knit team. And that was, you do everything on your own, really. It's like, with drama, you do one small part. Right.
It's a bigger team.
Yeah. Whereas, with what I do on a daily basis now, you do the sound, you do the video, you pretty much are directing people, you're working with the talent, you're editing, you're doing everything. Yeah. Which is so much more rewarding because, you've got a part in everything, whereas, you're not just loading up the clapper for your film or something like that,
Yeah. Wow. So I guess that's something that has changed also just in the world of television, and not dramatic television, but even news television. That probably has become more possible for one person to do because of the digital world being the world we inhabit now. Whereas I guess there was a time when you really did need that guy who, could actually capture, well, at that point capture, but, getting your tape. I mean, you do still use tape, right? Like there's a bit of tape
we're on disc now, so it's sort of effectively a small hard drive, I guess.
Oh, okay. So that's I thought tape was going to hang around a bit longer.
I still call it tape because I'm obviously grew up in that era, I guess. But
I think when the digital thing started, my boss at the time at TaylorMade, at Video Factory, said he was going to keep using tape because it was more robust, and because things do crash sometimes quite readily, I guess, on those kind of
it's funny.
drives.
I guess they had all those concerns when they were moving to a new medium, but like we use it daily now, and it it never fails.
Yeah.
You know, so I guess it's just with any new media that comes out, there's always going to be, I guess, teething issues and stuff. So until they get all those figured out and the computer's sort of upgraded so that, you know, they can cope with the video. So,
So really it's now possible to do kind of the level that you're doing can be done just with a laptop, and, you know, you got some big ass cameras. I've seen you just the other night. You had a camera on your shoulder. It was quite big, but presumably that's not normal anymore. You can have smaller. You know,
I mean, our cameras at TV3 are 10 years old now, so
that's why they're big.
Well, yes and no. You still would use a bigger camera like that because the lens alone is sort of maybe 30 centimeters long.
Right.
So you've got to have a bit of a weight to counterbalance yourself on your shoulder. But even a phone these days that shoots HD video. So
well, I was going to say, you know, that now has changed everything. I guess you still have Hollywood. You know, like they don't shoot stuff on phones yet. Or do they? I mean, sometimes they do if it's, you know, like a bit of a thing about that. Not really
phones, but I mean, they've got, you know, you can get 4K video, which is sort of the best video you can get these days. That's in a box kind of the size of, you know, probably 15, 20 centimeters, you know, like you can get amazing images in a very small thing now. Yeah.
Wow. And I guess the actual cost of such things might have come down too, in the sense that, you know, it's now easier to, you know, sit there when you're 8 years old and fantasize about making music videos and actually being able to do it. Really, if you've got a middle class life, let's say, you know, you can afford a few perks.
Yeah, which is interesting because it sort of has changed things in the fact that everyone thinks they're a DOP now.
Right.
So I think those people who have done the time, and I guess it all it takes is time, really. Like they say that to master something, it takes something like 200 hours or something like that. You know,
yeah,
like
I can't remember
to
that
be
one,
amazing. There's some quote or something, I don't know. But
well, I think it was a Malcolm Gladwell or somebody like that who wrote a book about it. And it is. Yeah,
so I mean, everyone with a phone or a DSLR now thinks they're a DOP, and you know they've.
Do you think there are like people who just have a natural eye that is that good to start with, or is it always going to be a learned thing?
Yeah, I think you have to have some sort of an eye for composition, maybe, but again, that can be learned.
Yeah,
you know, I think that in my experience, there's. Even working for the news, there's people who are very good technically, but maybe not so good visually. Whereas I am, I'm quite a visual person. Like I feel like I can compose a nice frame.
Yeah. But
technically, I'm not so clued up.
So
you know, I think you can be both.
Yeah.
But not.
It would be you'd be too perfect. Yeah, and somebody would kill you. No. Yeah. Well, so when you first started, like, were you a kid literally when you first started making stuff?
Yeah. I had one of those old school recorders where you've got the video camera attached with a cord to the VCR player, and you can press play and pause, and so I was effectively making movies, sort of editing within camera effectively, and just pausing, moving the shot or something, and then playing again to record it. Yeah,
that's what you had to do, and it didn't glitch on the.
Oh, it did.
It did. Oh, okay. Well,
but that was sort of part of the charm of it. You know, I called it fuzz cuts.
Fuzz cuts. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was artistic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could imagine such a thing being used now in exactly that way if you were trying to evoke a different time and
I guess
different technical skills.
But that's sort of how I started, just working with my dad, who he'd made a few videos just with his work at the Ministry of Defence, and
really,
just instructional sort of videos and stuff. So
and that was just something.
That and Michael Jackson was my two inspirations. Yeah.
Wow. Defense videos. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It was very. They're sort of like made with Lego, and they're almost stop motion.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I was just like, wow, this is so cool how you can, stop it and then move something in the frame and record again and move it again. It was, so all that sort of stuff, it got me going from a young age to want to do stuff and with visual moving images.
Well, I mean, I guess it's easier than ever before now, just for really anybody, any kids who whose parents will indulge them slightly by maybe buying them a phone to start with. But and I guess there are lots of sort of edit programs online that you can make use of free.
I think Apple, they've got lots of programs on just when you buy their computers.
Get the phone. Oh, okay, or the computer.
I don't know what they... Oh, like iMovie.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, so you can even just use that and...
Yeah, get a good result.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know. It's just such a... I mean, you're younger than me, I think, but things were quite different when I started out.
Yeah.
But I'm pleased to be... Well, in some ways, I feel like I've been left behind a little bit, but that's just my own, my own fault. I need to stream myself a little bit more into it because it will be pretty easy, I suspect.
I don't think you need to feel like you've been left behind, though, because I'm using gear that's 10 years old, and that was a worry for me at the start when I got into this process, because everything these days is HD and 4K and all that sort of amazing resolution.
Yeah.
Yet because out of necessity, really, I didn't have the money to buy flash gear, so I had the work gear from TV3 that I constantly keep in my car, so I started filming using that, and that's just in DV mode, which is fairly old school format. And I was a little bit worried about how it would come across at the theatre,
right?
But it looks fine, like it doesn't look like you're watching a beautiful blockbuster with Michael Bay or something, but it's perfectly fine for a local documentary.
Yeah, because you were just before talking about how you've had to sort of get your head around the technical in terms of how stuff is shown at theaters, and that the size of the theater, they've got different gear. So, I mean, I guess I might have thought about this and suspected it, but if you are over at Rialto, let's say, and, downstairs they got the really big cinema, upstairs those smaller ones that are a little bit like home cinema, I guess. It's a whole different file or kind of file that you've got to provide. And, I mean, I guess that makes sense. So the gruntier big one, how do you, is it an entire hard drive's worth?
It's a very complicated process, and I've got Mickey Treadwell from NHNZ helping me out with that process. I've got no idea how it's done, but he's spent, a week or so just basically taking my sequence of an hour 15 film, and he has to break it down to individual frames and convert it from 25 frames to 24, and so every single frame's broken up into a JPEG file and then converted to a TIFF file.
Wow.
So then you've got God knows how many frames, many thousands of frames, and then he has to export the audio separately and then re-put them all together into this DCP file. And then I think he has to encode it.
Oh my God.
So, because it's to stop piracy, although no one's really going to bother pirating this one. It's like for big Disney films and stuff, they need to have all these layers of protection in order to protect their asset.
Right.
So he's got to do all that and then, write specific file names, and it's a very niggly process, and so I'm very, very thankful to him.
I was going to say, is he doing it for the love as well?
He is. Because it's a very low budget documentary, and I've got,
But that's great, and I think because of the fact that it is a local subject, people are really anxious to be involved or to help out because they see the value. I mean, there really is something about it. You've got to keep your ears and eyes open in every situation, hopefully, but to be able to see stories or imagine stories, that's a real skill. I want to say thank you so much, Grant Findlay, who's been my guest today on Arts Hub. Me solo, Peter hopefully will be back next week. But next Wednesday is the evening, 8 o'clock, is the launch of his film Radio Dunedin, a documentary. So come along to that. See ya!
This program was first broadcast on Otago Access Radio and made with the assistance of New Zealand On Air.